Welcome back to another He-Man episode review, and today it's Search for the Past, a really good Season 2 episode. This one begins when Man-at-Arms finds a familiar-looking bracelet in the marketplace, which bears the seal of King Miro. Miro is Randor's father, who disappeared years ago, and so he and Duncan set off to look for him in the swamps, where the trader found the bracelet, and... Okay, Duncan, what the ship? What is this plywood piece of crap boat they're rafting on? I get that it's a swamp, but is this really the best they have for transportation? Anyway, while in the swamp, Duncan remembers stories of a floating mountain with a man on it, which Randor correctly guesses is his father. However, the swamps are ruled by the Enchantress, who is the one who trapped Miro a long time ago, and of course, she then captures Randor as well. Luckily, Queen Marlena sent Adam after Randor and Duncan because she was worried about them. Adam and Cringer drop into the swamp, and he becomes He-Man. After the heroes make it to the floating mountain, they find Miro, who points the way to the Enchantress's fortress, where He-Man makes short work of her lackeys. One such lackey, Drood, is turned giant and actually stops He-Man, but because the Enchantress does that stupid villain move where they begin threatening their lackeys after they've technically won, Drood turns on her, and the three generations of Eternian royalty are reunited at last. Afterwards, though, Miro decides he wants to travel the kingdom to see how Eternia has changed after so many years, and this is where the story actually picks up from in She-Ra. So, this episode was written by Misty Stewart, whose two other episodes were Eternal Darkness and 300 Air, both of which have been the subject of He-Man episode reviews before. And I dare say, this is probably her best episode script by a wide margin. Introducing yet another royal family member could have gone badly, but luckily the backstory of Miro is handled with a lot of care, plus the Enchantress is a pretty cool one-off villainess from the series that I'm just thoroughly very impressed with this episode. Also, I think the dialogue in this episode is very thoughtful and well written. For instance, I think this episode sort of foreshadows the revelation in Rainbow Warrior that Marlena knows her son is He-Man since she tells Adam to go after Duncan and Randor. It doesn't just ask Adam to find He-Man like the characters sometimes do. We also get a very unique moment of Duncan actually calling the king just by his first name when he gets captured, which he literally never does. I really want to say Stewart's writing had really matured over the 3 episodes, but Larry DiTilio did help with the teleplay, so it's a bit hard to say which of the two actually did this dialogue. But either way, Stewart does deserve credit for the story beats. Now, as for the episode direction, it's a bit inconsistent. Mostly the animation is excellent because, you know, it's He-Man Season 2, and I think there's a wealth of detail and polish in this episode, but there are still some awkward moments. The point where Randor gets dragged off on the water spout is one, and some of Drood's facial animations are also kind of weird. I also love the weird owl motif we have going on with the Enchantress. She even uses this weird spy owl in the episode. She sort of comes off like an evil version of the Sorceress, and as I pointed out in my top 10 He-Man standalone villains list many years ago, He-Man didn't have that many female villains to begin with, so this makes her stand out. Also, Linda Gary does her voice with a distinct husk, which, honestly, kinda makes her seem almost like a prototype Shadow Weaver. Now for other funny highlights from this episode. At the start, Orko has a gag with some fruit, but I thought that was a bit too much. In the scene, Orko causes a bunch of oranges to fall when he picks one from the bottom, and Duncan is forced to buy all of them? Why? I mean, why? They weren't even ruined or bruised as far as I can tell. They couldn't just clean up the mess and apologize? Also, this is probably the one and only time we see a demonstration of the ejector seats on the Wind Raider as Adam launches himself and Cringer out. And speaking of Cringer, Battle Cat has one of the best reactions ever to the flying mountain.
That's no legend.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling these guys. Also, I know I always say that backlighting is the best magic effect, but I do have to admit that the Enchantress's magic orb is a smidge too bright. I also love the Lurker, which attacks Miro and He-Man on the floating mountain. This thing is basically a giant ice-breathing flying squirrel, and weirdly looks very similar to the bear from the Fistos Forest episode. Though the action scene itself is good, I do think He-Man's legs freezing was a bit of dodgy animation here. The episode also reuses a lot of backgrounds from the creatures from the Tar Swamp, which is a bit weird, but it does give the episode a weirdly Season 1-esque feeling in a good way, so I'm not knocking it. Also, it seems King Miro is the origin of He-Man's cheesy jokes.
Are you all right? I'm fine, but now I know how it feels to be an icicle.
The Enchantress's sludge monsters, however, are kinda dopey and get defeated pretty easily, which is a shame. I mean, they look nasty, but you knew exactly what was going to happen here once they met He-Man. Also, we never actually find out what happens to the Enchantress. Drew just literally carries her off screen and neither is seen again. I get the feeling there's some dire consequences to this scene, but I rather not think about them. Now, the ending where Miro decides to become a traveling hobo king is kinda touching, I guess, but I can't help but to get incredibly frustrated by this line.
Father, surely you can't mean to go. You're king now. No, son, you're king. And a very good one from what I hear.
No, he's not. I have illustrated this point countless times in prior videos. Now, King Miro did, in fact, make one more appearance in She-Ra Princess of Power. Unfortunately, that episode, King Miro's Journey, was frankly a pretty big letdown, with absolutely nothing outstanding about it other than Miro going head-to-head with some Horde troopers, but really, not worth a watch. Search for the Past, however, is an excellent episode. I'd say one of the finest in Season 2 overall. Definitely worth checking out. And that's the review. Until next time, I have the power, so can you.